Ladies and gentlemen, we are back once again. It's an honor, privilege, and a pleasure to be in a safe space and a brave place where it's not about canceling, it's about counseling. And I am joined by the founder of the Dr. Bryant Institute. And I honestly, I've never had more reverence for an individual in this setting, not only because she's truly a professional and kind of walks the walk and talks the talk, but she reads me, she puts me in my place and talks to me in a way that I receive it, because she has over 17 years in her profession as a therapist and an expert in psychology, but also keeps it real. She ain't here cussing, calling, referring to, she's saying all the words. Let's just say that. And this is probably our third session. And I honestly want to have the opportunity, welcome back.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to be back.
No doubt. I'm excited to talk about you. I mean, we've generalized, conversations about, the Black woman in whole. We even talked a lot about, Black men. Specifically, we kind of dove into my life. But for those who may or may not know who you are and where you come from, I want to give you the opportunity to tell a little bit about yourself and share your story and your journey. First and foremost, where do you come from?
I come from San Pedro, which is a community in Los Angeles. Small city, small town, product of two teenage parents. They had me at 16 and 17. The cool thing
Likewise.
is, though, right? The cool thing is they were high school sweethearts, and they didn't get pregnant on accident. I love this small story. They actually planned me walking home from school. Of course, they're broke kids, and said, let's go make a baby. We're in love. Right. Went and got a motel, couldn't afford a hotel, literally. So I was conceived in a motel. So, I got it naturally and everything. I'm back.
Hilarious.
No, but it had me in a motel. So planned me, but obviously we're teenagers. And, there you have it. And grandparents stepped in and raised me because they were teenagers.
Same story. Except for I wasn't planned. I don't think I went to my dad's high school graduation. So it's like, but again, like my dad was, due to his, had some street ties, doing some things and gave his life to the Lord. And even in that process, was trying to do the right thing and got a young lady pregnant. And then, he went on to, go further his ministry and go to college and get out the hood to North Carolina.
Look at that.
My mom went and worked her ass off and was a single mom. But, my father's mother was the one who actually kind of stepped up and was the matriarch for us all.
My mom's mother stepped up and raised all of us. And my dad, my product of a street guy. Yeah. He's the founder of one of the biggest, I don't want to say, but biggest gangs here in LA. Big organizations.
Yeah. Community
organizations. And so I am literally like the epitome of the product of a street guy. When I say epitome, like grew up with my dad being one of the biggest drug dealers and being street. There was nothing not street about him. To the point where even coming home, I couldn't go inside the house until he checked the whole house with his pistol and came back outside and said, baby, it's clear. I couldn't have a key to our house because I couldn't be there alone in case drug deal or something went bad. I couldn't be found there alone but I knew where the safe was. I knew where the stuff was. I knew the safe code. He's like, if they come, you give it to them. So like a movie, but dad transitioned like your dad, not to ministry, but just to being a family man and being a man who owns businesses and makes good money. And so best friends was a dad, kind of how you're saying with your girls, where he put me up on game, told me if you meet a man who looks, smells, thinks, has any resemblance of me, it's a no. Don't bring him home. Don't date him, run, nothing. And he's told me that, he said, baby, God makes 3 men, either an excellent father, horrible man, or excellent husband, horrible father, or you're blessed to get both. And he said, make sure that you get, if you have to choose one, you get the man who's a better husband than a father. Because as a woman, that'll benefit you as a woman, because a man is going to be there for their kids at the level that they love the mom. And I find that to be, you could disagree, but I find that to be very true, meaning the father usually loves that child at the level that it loves that mama. And so that's why men with multiple baby mamas, I'm not saying for you, you can kind of see where the favoritism or the time goes based on the love and respect they have for that woman. And my dad's a good father. There's 6 of us
Yeah.
by 5 different women. And he's a good father
like a
to
man
all
of
of
my
us.
cloth.
He's a man of your cloth.
But I would say I would just, because I definitely want to give you the opportunity to tell your story and your journey. But I would just add to that, because maybe there's some context there. I personally feel like my children come first.
Oh yeah.
So therefore, even with
my
the
dad
mother,
feels that way
yeah,
too.
even
So
with the
why
mothers,
he's
like
saying
I
it.
gotta, and because like anyone who's dealing with me in a romantic setting have to know, like, all right, it's about the kids first and foremost, and then we can wine and dine and do all the things that we need to do to cater to your desires. But I think maybe that adds to why you said, like, if a man who's gonna take care of his kid, because to me it's not even about, like, I could despise the mom, but that has nothing to do with the child.
Yeah.
And I think in our community, a lot of times, first of all, I've tried to be an example in that space, because we have seen men who, because I don't rock with your mama, therefore I don't rock with you.
Right.
And I think, if anything, that's a sin at a different level. But I could see how you can easily fall into that, because especially if there's conflict there, and if someone's making it difficult for you to be a father, all you can do, again, going back to our past sessions, is retreat, is flee, because I'm not going to go back and forth with you, because you're breaking my heart because you're not allowing me to see my child.
And I can't deal with the heartbreak, so I'm running away from the heartbreak, not really the responsibility, but the responsibility gets negated as well.
But if you're using my child as a pawn, what type of individual are you anyway?
And we don't care about the type of individual you are. If my eye's on the prize to see my child, then by all means necessary, let me run these plays.
Yeah.
And I got to sit in emotion or deal with emotions, and I just got to get my
as men, that's what we got to learn. We
Yeah.
just unpacked some heavy stuff right there.
Yeah, totally.
But again, in any man who is a single father who is desiring to be in their child's life at the highest capacity, I just encourage you just to work through it. Try to become as emotionally intelligent as possible, and always focus on the child.
And
even if you don't necessarily get along with the mom, or you're going to have challenges, you're going to have conflict. And even if she's not at the space, just try to work through it and be there for that child.
100%. Yeah, no, absolutely. So.
Because probably as 2 individuals who, I know I came up in an unorthodox household, and, I appreciate every time my parents put me first before them. And sometimes as humans, it's not always easy to put, even as your own children.
In my value
self-preservation is the first law of nature.
Yeah.
So, you got to take care of yourself, but still take the attempt to put your children's feelings before your own.
And I think that's why statistically, that's a big reason why the divorce rate is high, because of what you just said, people putting kids first. I beg to differ, even though my dad agrees with you too. He's the dad, he puts us first. He don't care who walks, we come first. So he's been an excellent father, but not the best of man, just being real. And me and him had debates where I say, Daddy, I don't agree with that. He's like, I've never put a woman before you or even my mother. And I'm saying, I don't agree with that. When I have kids with my husband, we come first. Doesn't mean the kids go without, but when you have 2 adults who understand that we're showing learned behavior and we're teaching our kids what a healthy relationship looks like, not just for marriage, but also them. It doesn't mean that the kids don't eat and the wife and husband does. There's a hierarchy for me that goes God, my hubs, me, and then the kids.
I understand
and so
that.
the covenant is broken, only for me. I'm not self-projecting. The covenant is broken when it goes the other way. Of course, if I'm married and my husband says, if only one person gets to eat and there's 3 of us, I'm sure both of us are going to equally agree it's the child.
Right.
But when it comes to making sure our relationship is healthy, which is really the healthiness of the environment for our child, for me, my value is only my husband comes first and I come first. And I find in my session of 17 years, Nick, there's been many more men than women who come in and say that the relationship failed. And if you look at divorce rate statistics of when divorce happens, it's after that first child.
Yeah.
It's after, because
they should have never got married in the first place.
Probably so, but also because, whoever it was, and from my experience, it has been the woman, we're not knocking women, but it's been the woman more who has placed the child first and totally dissipated the man out the relationship.
Only reason why I'm going to have to disagree with you on this, Doc,
it's okay,
is because if we're talking life,
these
children did not ask to be here.
Right.
They are responsibilities.
100%.
as individuals, I can't put my desires and my happiness, or I shouldn't,
Right.
over someone that I am responsible for. So even I'm not even talking about putting food on the table and all that. I'm
Right.
talking about, like, we're talking about mental, physical, and spiritual well-being in a household. I'm not, and again, this is pretty heavy. Because one, I grew up with it, and I'm a
Right.
product of
Right.
it, and I'm producing it.
Yeah.
When an adult is saying, you know, mama gotta live too. Mama need her man. Daddy gonna do his thing. I'll be back. When those mentalities are presented to a child,
that's a different mentality.
That's where abandonment issues surface, and where a child feels like I'm not good enough in that sense because they made decisions for themselves before they made decisions for me. And children pick up on that at a very early age. So I much rather say, it ain't about your mama right now. I'm rocking with you. And say that to my child as much as possible, even if that hurts mama's feelings. To me, at least, because I know that child is going to grow up with a certain level of self-worth that they didn't feel like daddy put work before me, daddy put women before me, daddy put whatever before me. If I can instill anything into my own children, is that you are my number one priority. Even all that I do is for you. Every dollar that I make is going to you. So again, I'm pretty sure people in the comments going to debate, have different things, like, and even we all have different experiences. But every time I see an adult put their happiness.
But you're describing more of an adult saying, I'm going to do me at the expense of you.
Even in a marriage.
Yeah,
because
that's what I'm saying. Even in a marriage, but we're not talking about the level of I'm going to do me at the expense of your needs. I'm going to do me for my pleasures at the expense of that.
Because we do that as humans.
But a healthy family dynamic takes balance. And it's very unhealthy for a child to feel like they are number one above authority. Because what happens is they grow up to then disrespect authority, which we entitled, and they grow up with this narcissistic type of personality, even if they're not diagnosed with it. And then you have
spoiled brats.
And then you have these kids who don't respect when law enforcement pulls them over. We have an issue. They're going to school and these teachers can't even get them to sit still enough because they're so used to being number one and things going their way. No. Listen, the first place a child should get their feelings hurt by hearing no, or the first place a child should see that you are not always number one is circumstantial, should be at home. Because life is going to teach you that you are not always going to be the butter cake of everybody's dessert.
I can't be the butter cake.
You know, so, but what I'm saying, then what that does is that creates that emptiness that and I'm going to poke at you again, that emptiness and that sense of inadequacy within you because you were groomed in a certain way that life can't maintain. And so what happens is you're number one and you're the golden child and all these things. It happens with athletes. Then you go into the real world after you retire and everything shatters. Now you got depression, you're suicidal ideations,
but they
you have
still
anxiety.
accomplish things that most people will never accomplish and experience great experience because we told them how great they were from the beginning. We instilled in them that we gonna support you all the way along your ride so you can not only reach the levels that you want, so you can reach back and then get the rest of the family.
We will support you along your ride. That does not mean that kid doesn't understand balance, that there's a thing called boundaries that our community doesn't seem to have, probably because of that dynamic. The boundary goes, baby, we've been at your football game, your soccer game, your ballerina game, daddy and I all day. It's 9 o'clock. It's shutdown time. There's a boundary where it's time where this is our time, and you're teaching your child how to grow up and not be a narcissist that then needs his woman or her man to put them first over everything, which is a fairy tale and unrealistic. You're teaching them the balance between, we are a family dynamic. There's times that daddy's going to come first, there's times that mama's going to come first, and there's times that you come first. But what we do is we teach that so that it becomes more of a wholesome type of feel, not me. And the moment you don't get me, you flee because you can't sit in your emotions of hearing no, because you got to control things to keep things the way you need it, which is called codependency. So what you describe is then creating a codependent child that says, if I'm not the center, guess what? Fuck all this because I'm not the center of attention.
It ain't got to be the center. It got to be the understand that in a
Nick,
dynamic.
Kids create. We grow up to, if we don't do the work, right, and get a sense of self, we grow up to create the exact environment we learn to thrive or survive in, period. That's all we know. We can't create past what we know. That's why experience teaches, words don't. So if our child or my child or your beautiful kids are always at the center of you, and she grows up and gets a man who cannot he's a great man, but she can't be the center because what if he got kids like you and them kids are the center?
She need to pick better.
She may have to pick better.
That's
but just say she has someone who can't give her that same treatment, and that's her norm. You have to be realistic about, or should I say aware about, what norms am I creating for my kids? And I'm saying, because listen, I'm a product of what you're saying. I was the golden child. I was the child that came first.
And look at you.
But I had to work through a lot of BS.
But we all
Nick.
do. We all have challenges. We all
Right.
come with some shit, and that's why even right now we're discussing a very small percentage of people, because if we keep it in a
Right.
stack,
Right.
we all done been through some shit.
Oh yeah, all of us. Yeah.
And it only makes us stronger in that sense, to where when we know how to handle something, and adversity builds character in that sense.
That's what I was going to say. It's more important for kids to see the family dynamic, whether it's together or not, process through things that may be uncomfortable for them as well, and get to a resolve collectively than it is for them to be blinded with the fairy tale perspective or perception that's going to form that I'm always number one, or I'm usually number one. And so that's kind of how life is going to life with me, because that kid won't know how to process the reality of what life does. Even when you reach the pinnacle of life and you get titles and success and all that. Look, that uphill climb is a mug, boy. And that uphill climb will show you what you came from or what you built. And also it'll show you what environment you were put. I came from a very adverse environment. So that's why I was able to catapult, because I didn't know where I was running to. I knew I was running from, though.
Yeah.
So I put them track shoes on. They're still on. You may see heels today, but them track shoes are never unlaced because I'm still running from something, right? And I just happened to run into a lot of amazing opportunities and things and people and blessings and work and healing. I got blessed to run into that by default and by choice. But if a child...
It's called God's favor.
God's favor, baby. But we have to be very, very, very aware, from being in my field, of the norm we're creating for our babies, and of course, it's better to be involved and cause whatever chaos you're going to cause than have children have daddy issues or mommy issues, meaning you're just not there at all.
But I think you're going to have both.
Yeah, you're going to have both too.
We all got daddy issues, we all got mama issues.
But there's different levels to it, though, Nick. There's different levels to it.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, because I'm not a fan of Freud's perspective, is that it all comes from some reverting back to your childhood and some, because we need to stop making those excuses and blaming mama and daddy
100%.
for who we are.
100%.
You can blame mama and daddy for the cause, but you can't blame them for the effect.
There you go. Or your choices later on once you become an adult.
Once you understand, I went through some shit, but now I'm going to be...
But that's why mental health, therapy, coaching, psychologists, seeing that, going to it. I go to one myself as a doctor. Everyone needs to be in it, because it's not about us as a professional telling you your choices were right or wrong. It's about us helping you figure out the root of that choosing and the norm that you're in, and just drawing out a plan that works for where you want to be. Because a lot of people are still in the environment that they don't want to be in, because that's the childhood environment they've taken with them, and they keep recreating the same pathology, and they're going crazy in that. There's lack in that because the evolution hasn't taken place. And it's not because they don't want to evolve, Nick. It's because they don't have the effective tools to do so. People who come in my session are not there saying, I always just wanted to be messed up. I don't want to evolve. No, they're saying, like, had I known this, doc, 5 years ago, I swear to God, I would have moved on it. Had I had this tool, I would have moved quicker. Had I knew this is what evolution looked like, I would have jumped a long time ago. Had I known I can jump without a life jacket, but I felt safe within myself, I would have been a professional jumper. Right? People just need to know, how do I do it? And one thing we all want to know is that we're going to be okay when we do. Everybody just wants to be okay in whatever they're doing and wherever they're going. Will I be okay?
Right.
Well, whether you there or you not, doc, will I be okay?
Right.
And they're only able to be okay when you teach people a sense of self, meaning who are you? How do you govern you? How do you manage, which is a better word for control, manage who you are? And how do you produce the experience you want? Because you don't create my experience, I do. I already came here with the experience I want. Right. You can't create that for me. You already came here with the experience you want. That's the self-mastery of knowing how to create that. And when you have that type of knowledge, you'll never be perfect, but you can somewhat try to create a norm for your child. But once they become adults like you and I did, they go and do what they gonna do anyways. So at that point, you've done what you can do. And if you're not in more of a polyamorous, like, relationship like you are, and you're more monogamous one-on-one, you're hoping that you put your partner first enough to where y'all still have a damn relationship and you guys can continue to lead by example to your grown children on what a healthy relationship looks like. And it's not perfection. Another thing is this whole toxicity and dysfunctional thing, and I'm leaving this person because they're toxic. You're going to be alone. Not you, I'm saying people. You're going to be by your damn self, because let me explain something to you. If you get someone who's not toxic, it's because they're not human. In every relationship,
that's what I was saying in our first session.
Yes, every relationship has some level of healthy dysfunction and some level of healthy toxicity. There's no way for you and I to cleave together without doing some of this bumping. Right. It's not going to work like that. So we have to be okay with doing this, but the only recipe to a long-term successful relationship is to never leave. To never leave. That's the only way you can get 30, 40 years. Said. To never leave. Yeah. Because we're going to go through some things. And there's going to be a lot of things that I say, this is it. This is the non-negotiable, right? But if I really am in it to be in it forever, like from the beginning, before I meet a man, I'm saying when I commit, I'm just doing this forever. That means I'm signing up and forgiving you before you do any of the bullshit you may come with. And that's challenging, but that's what real commitment is. Commitment is I'm going to do what I said I was going to do no matter how I feel. That goes back to what? Emotional intelligence.
Right.
Emotional intelligence is a nucleus to any healthy relationship. If I'm committing to you and you piss me off, I've committed to stay. So where am I going? Where am I going? Doesn't mean I can't take a break. Doesn't mean I can't take a pivot. I can't go to brunch. I can't meditate. Can I take a weekend of woosah? But that means I'm not leaving you. And as an abandoned woman, thank God I've evolved into a place of deeper than just not leaving you, meaning leaving the relationship, but I've also had to learn to not leave you in this emotion of distraught. Because leaving you while you're in your emotion is the pit of abandonment. That's worse than me walking out and returning. I should be able to sit in this with you, upset or not upset, until our emotions do whatever they're going to do and we get back to baseline. Right. Because that is the epitome of deliverance. That's the epitome of commitment. Abandonment is, you know what? I can't deal with my emotions, so screw yours, I'm out of here. And when I feel I'm okay and I've regulated, because I don't know how to do it, I'll come back. But it's still an emotional roller coaster, and abandonment is an emotional roller coaster. What I need you to do is sit with me in this until if it take a day or 2 weeks or 5 hours, don't leave me in my pain. Even if you're just my friend, no, sit with me in this. Now, if you got to go to work, that's it, baby, I got to go to work. But when I get back, let's continue to process this.
But like you said, if it's an emotional intelligence scenario, at some point, if I've tried to reason with you and you're still irate, right, or you're still non-compromising, I got to let you sit in that and let you have that, and then hopefully on another occasion we can find some resolve.
There you go. But you also have to, if it's someone you're already in a relationship with, and say you have already grown and evolved into your emotional intelligence and they're just not there yet, then of course you kind of have to just wait it out, do a little deliverance, wait it out, do a little deliverance, do what's best for you. But when you are, say, a person who's single or dating, you're not already in something that has been chaotic and there's some division and you're trying to atone or get that stuff to be jailed back, as a single person, you're learned, because I've learned when I was very hostile and I'm coming with it. Like I said, we come with who we are. Don't nobody give us nothing. So when I was already ready to come with it, I met men who gave me the reason to come with it. Now that I'm in a place where I'm like, not that I'm not going there with you because I have to try. I'm just not built like that no more. Right. And I don't have the desire to do that. The men that I meet, and I'm dating, I'm single, but I'm dating, the men that I meet, they ain't perfect, but the conversation is more of a dialogue like this, Nick. I have literally yet, knock on wood, because I don't want to, yelled or raised my voice at a man in the past 3 years I've been dating, because of not the men, but because of what I'm calibrating, and because my approach to a man is not like, I wish you would. No, it's now like, listen, we can talk this out, you know what I mean? Or we don't have to. But I'm not going to do this with you. And I very much, I think you can tell by my personality, I very much stand on my square, and I very much stand on business. So facts. I don't have to emasculate you for you to know I stand on business, because more men have said, damn, you ain't no joke, by me saying, listen, do we want to have resolve right now? Yeah. Because I'm not about to do this with you. And you'll see a man's whole everything. I'm shift like who the hell is she? Like, what just happened right now? Because like you said, they're not used to that.
I want to touch on that for a second because you bring up some great points, but even specifically to the single women that are watching, and they see you as a strong example. They see the empowerment. They see, but I mean, at the end of the day, what would be your advice or your insight to? I mean, because you are a single woman as well, and is the desire to get married eventually?
It is. I'm in my choosing. I said 4 or 5 months ago, I said, okay, God, I'm in my choosing stage. I'm not going to call up another wedding because the commitment in me is different.
So, and you
I'm
had, like you said,
excited
you've
about that.
had
excited.
plans did not go as
Oh yeah,
the plan.
I've called off 2 engagements and 2 weddings, and yeah.
2 separate times? So that's 4?
2 separate times.
Damn.
Yeah, 2 separate times.
All right. So you know what you want. You gonna get what you want when you want it. What is your insight and advice to finding this husband out there?
I think it's to be completely open. I think it's to not be a stiff blade of grass. A stiff blade of grass, I say it in my book, Mental Detox, is a dying blade of grass. Meaning you have to not personalize life, but you have to live life. And you have to be okay with getting experiences without judging yourself as a woman based on what those experiences are. Whether the experience is a week or a month or a year and it doesn't work, you gotta be able to give fully what you want to give and what you want to invest without feeling like you were robbed in the event it doesn't work. Because the feeling of robbery then dissipates you and your value and makes you question who you are and puts you in a doubtful space. And if we're talking about law of attraction, you can't attract high functioning from a place of low vibration. So you have to make sure that you understand that life is not doing nothing to you, it's doing it for you. It's meant to be lived and not personalized, and be okay with your experiences. And for the women who are up in age, when I say up in age, you could be in your 30s and you're not married yet and you are in your career or you're trying to figure things out. Make your self-talk question not be, why am I not married yet? Let your self-talk question and dialogue be, I'm proud of myself that I didn't choose out of despair, that I allowed myself as a woman to choose on my terms, on my time, and when I felt like it. Because when you do it like that, then it's more apt to work. So take your time and do you, and don't personalize it, because you have a lot of people who already been married a few times. That could easily be you. But for the people who have been married a few times and do have kids and they're co-parenting, I would say that number 1, 2, get your emotional intelligence up. If you don't have a therapist and you can't afford it, read books on it. YouTube has free videos on emotional intelligence. And the best way to implement knowledge, because knowledge is not power, the implementation of knowledge is power, is to go out there and experience it. So for like myself, I had to date and get into conflict with men so that I can use my emotional intelligence tool. And I remember when I first started trying to use it, I'm like, damn, I totally messed that up. I blew that. Like, I totally blew that, right? I didn't mean to emasculate him, but damn, I didn't mean to come off that straw. I blew that up. But now it's to the point where it's on autopilot.
Yeah.
And I know the dialogue and I know the level of relationship I want. And then 2, don't knock yourself for showing up in ways that go against your ideology.
Right.
And be open to dating someone who is outside of your norm of what you think he should be, because what you think he should be is based on what you've already experienced.
Yeah.
And if what you experience is what you want, baby, go back.
Yeah.
But if not, be open to it.
Now,
And let yourself be full woman, full feminine, full that. You don't, I always say I'm hybrid, meaning I'm alpha submissive, because I'm definitely alpha, but I'm definitely submissive. And I couldn't be with a man that I couldn't be submissive with. Like, if my alpha is always in prone with you, then I like submitting. I like loving on you.
You hit exactly where I want to go. So in this, because even in the way you conduct yourself, even the intellect and the wisdom that you possess, it comes off very alpha and probably is intimidating to a lot of men. And then so either you find yourself being combative with another alpha, or you find yourself overtaking a man that can't match that energy.
I love that. I love that you said that. My last fiance was epitome of alpha, just alpha, no beta, alpha. And it actually showed me submissive sides of me that I didn't know exist, that I fell in love with. And so when you're with an alpha who's a true alpha, there is safety there. And everything about your femininity, about your submissiveness will arise, and everything about your alpha dormants naturally. And so we didn't have an alpha battle because it was something about his true alpha essence that turned me on so much that I wanted to stay in my feminine so that he can stay in the balancing, right, of alpha. Because had I moved to alpha, we wouldn't have been equally yoked. Does that make sense? Either
No,
he would have had to
100%.
go
You have to have a
beta,
balance.
or we would have done this. And his alphaness, because it was the first time I was with a true alpha man, was so attractive to me that from the kitchen to the bedroom, it made me wide open submissive in ways that I didn't even, I remember saying I don't want to do them things. And I started saying, when we gonna do them things again? Because I was so in my feminine. And let me say this, ladies and Nick, that one experience may have not worked, but that is what ignited my femininity in me. And from there, Nick, I've never gone back. Like every man that I've calibrated has been in his alpha that has allowed me to stay in my submissiveness.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And so it's the law. That man was so pivotal in shifting my calibration for me that even though it didn't work, that was a blessing in itself.
There it is. Okay, so as we wrap up, get into your business just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're sharing a lot. You already done beat me up for session after session. So as transparent and as candid as you would like to be, you said like literally there's been 4 times that you've almost went down the altar.
I almost went down.
Yeah. Well, taking the long walk.
I'm taking that long haul.
Why hasn't it worked? And whose fault is it? Because you've been talking about accountability, you've been talking about high functioning, and you literally told me that I'm probably in my situation because of the type of high functioning and low functioning people I'm choosing.
Yep.
Why hasn't it worked for you?
Because for the first few, I was low functioning and I was still in my healing journey. And so I law of attracted low functioning. And
in the first, you're saying that happened all 4 or just the first?
The first, I would say like the first 2 or 3. Definitely low functioning of myself. So
when you say that, because I want you to break that down, like what were you desiring? How were you low functioning that found things that where you thought this was your match, this was your person, and then it still didn't go through because you were low functioning?
I take accountability. It was my fault because I knew all of them were not my person from the beginning.
So, and there is a person, there's one person out there for you?
I don't think there's one person. I think that there's many people that are for everyone. I think that is just
so you're a type of person, you're a person that's on your frequency.
The type of person that you feel I want to do this with you forever. I think that's your person. If that happens 4 or 5 times, hey, that's amazing. You know, for me, I knew that I didn't want to do any of them forever. Not because they weren't great men. I knew subconsciously that I was choosing because they were what I needed for that season. And I, got caught up in, we're here, this man is amazing, faithful as hell, loves me, takes full care of me, even though I'm in my own professional field. And so I learned not to thrive, but to survive in that. And because I'm a little girl who grew up surviving and not thriving, I didn't understand what thriving was yet. And so I allowed my survival mechanism and my lack of sense of self, right, and my brokenness to choose what it needed there. And because it chose something that allowed me to stay broken, I stayed longer. Does that make sense? Because what they were feeding me, which was allowing me to be toxic, allowing me to be dysfunctional in that relationship, and even allowing me sometimes to be abusive, even if it was verbally, in that relationship without fleeing, because these men were not fleers, without fleeing or at least saying, hold on, this is not cool, we got to figure this out. It was just, I love you, and like you were saying about these babies being number 1, you can run amok, and I'm going to be right here for the muck 2 or 3. That may be what we want coming from abandoned little control freaks, but that ain't what we need. And so when I had that, all it did was inflame the dysfunction that I was.
Right.
Luckily, I was able to look in the mirror and say, hold on, I'm looking at all this inflammation. I don't want this with me and my husband. I don't want this for my kids. I don't want this for me as a woman. I don't want this for my other relationships. And then when I pulled out of the relationships, I ended up doing a lot of looking at myself. So over this 4 years I've been single, I have said no before the ring. I've said no at the conversation of, I would love to marry you. I didn't say no bluntly, but I said, look, that's not something I'm ready for now.
Right.
Maybe we could take a little slow. But in 4 years, and I say this with all humility, I promise all humility, whatever it is that I calibrate, whatever it is in me, whatever daddy issues my father made sure I did not have.
Right.
There's something about me, I'm not joking, that calibrates really good men who are ready to get married. And so this is why I say it's not their fault, because these men wasn't no infidelity. These men they weren't beating on me.
Yeah.
I attract good men, but I wasn't in the space of being ready to marry them because I needed them to be good.
Too, though.
Yeah.
Like, you talking
but
about
I needed them to be
life-changing.
good. But I needed them to be good for me, Nick, because I needed something good to be reflected on me, if that makes sense, for my healing journey.
Right.
And so once I was able to see that, I'm able to go into, okay, this is what I know I need to do. And there's a lot of checkmating of myself. There's a lot of ways I refuse to ever show up with a man. There's a lot of alpha things that I would never say or do with a man because of me calling off and because of those men being amazing enough to stick through my BS and let me run amok. But they were, say it again with all respect, they were like buffers. And it's not in a bad way. I'm saying they were those buffers that were just sturdy oaks. And from an abandoned little girl, what do you think we need most? We need someone who's going to be a sturdy oak. You never leave. You never leave, no matter what I put you through. Right? No matter how toxic I am, you ain't going to leave. No matter how many times I flee, you ain't going to leave.
So then maybe, I mean, again, because there's a lot of women out there who feel that their independence is so strong that they don't need a man in their experience. So like, what, again, as I tap into my fatherhood, I'm telling my daughter, like, you can have one if you want one.
That's what my dad used to tell me. Baby, he gave me a ring on my ring finger at 16 and said, beautiful, whole lot of diamonds. Like, don't take it off till a man gives you a ring. Well, I've had 4 of them. But he also said, baby, you're successful, you're a powerhouse, you ain't got to marry. But I explained to him, Daddy, but I am...
So why does a strong woman want to marry?
Because it does give some completion to the completion, if that makes sense. For me, I want to be a mom. So that's important to me, right? But I want a family, not just kids. Otherwise, I can adopt. Obviously, I can financially afford it. Yeah. But and I want that family dynamic.
You want the traditional household.
I want the traditional household. Will it look like tradition? Maybe not.
Right.
I think for me, being a successful woman, the biggest thing has been, and the biggest conversation with my father and I and my uncle Montel is, Shy, what if you make more than him? Are you okay with that? Because there was a time where I wasn't okay with it. And now I've gotten to a place where I do so well, that I'm saying, well, if he does make a little less, but he can't,
so you
but
can get
he
a bus
can provide.
driver and a janitor a shot.
If the janitor owns a janitorial company.
Oh, see, now he got to own the whole damn company.
But this
he
is the
can't
thing.
even be a good janitor.
Let me say this. It doesn't matter how much more I make than him. If he can provide for us and provide a quality of life for us, I don't really give it.
But
I don't care.
You the one that's doing that.
For myself.
But if you're clearly at a level where you can take care, like, so he don't necessarily got to put, and he could be a provider and a protector
take care
without
of my man
financially. Yeah.
I don't, for me personally, I wouldn't, only because it would put me too much in an alpha space.
Y'all would be equally yoked.
And then I don't know how much my old norm would not come out. And because I know myself,
that we be
that respect
searching for when we enter the house wouldn't be
when
there.
you say daddy's home, that means more than just your home and your present.
So now you just narrowed your circle so much smaller, because now you got to have a high functioning, high value.
Yes.
Like,
and let me tell you something though.
Rich ass man.
Or at least if he ain't rich, he got to be doing something that makes, and I'm not saying rich, he just has to be.
Rich in spirit.
This is what I've learned, Nick. This is what I've learned. I've learned that it's not the amount of money that someone makes that creates the quality of life. Because I have constituencies that make way less and way more than me.
Right.
And my constituents that make way more, I'm talking about astronomically more than me, I live the same quality of life they do.
So you just want somebody with some initiative and some aspirations and dreams. No,
I'm 41. So somebody who, he ain't,
is he done dreaming? Can he be a younger man?
He may have to, because I want a man with no kids, because I want my own family.
You want a man with no kids?
So go down, Nick.
This nigga ain't out there. You looking for Jesus.
Yes.
And he still ain't came back.
Can we please find Jesus? At least Jesus.
You want a single,
Jesus could carry the cross.
rich,
Jesus could be
high functioning, smart.
Yes.
That nigga is not. He got
Jesus
bitches.
could be crucified and saved and resurrected. Yes, God, bring me Jesus.
There is no single man with no kids that is rich.
Nick,
That
date
man does
them.
not know.
I date them. I date them all the time.
They ain't where they at.
Baby, I date them. They're dating. We're still dating. I don't have to rush into marriage because
That are
Yes.
single.
Yes.
Fully single.
Fully
not
single.
Just you.
Fully single.
No kids.
Fully single. No kids, baby. And they're younger though. They're 32, 33. They're younger.
Okay,
Yes. I'm not saying they 40. They are younger.
All right. But even those dudes, come on now.
No,
You telling me those men that you talking about don't got options?
I'm sure they do, but why? I'm not concerned with options.
And so, okay, so
Yeah.
because as high valued as you are and as high functioning you are, they're probably that's why they got
But
those
I want
out
to
there
say
too.
that this is the thing about being high functioning and calibrating someone who's high functioning. It's very good, but you got to be ready for that because they also come on their square as well saying, I'm high functioning. And so I may not tolerate you when you decide if your old habits come in to run this muck.
Yeah.
So what I've learned through this is if my old habits is something that's going to be more overtaken in the relationship, then I gotta accept a low functioning man. Just like you with the low functioning woman you deal with, because he has to be able to tolerate my stuff.
Yeah.
But if I do get with a high functioning man equally yoked to me, then there is gonna be a lot of awareness I have to have because he's also like me, not going to tolerate low functioning behavior that is abusive or disrespectful.
That's if you two
see
are
what I
being
mean?
at your perfection, high
your best.
functioning.
But
that shit ain't always gonna happen.
But it shouldn't happen.
It's not.
No, it shouldn't happen. It should be we're both high functioning enough to stick through this stuff.
Yeah.
Not to not have toxicity. Remember I just said
Because an alpha male who has everything that you desire and he's young, he gonna act out of ego. He's gonna act out of certain.
100%. His emotional intelligence isn't all the way there yet. You're right.
Yeah. So
You're right.
And in that, you're gonna have to put up with some shit.
You're right.
And therefore,
Absolutely.
I mean,
But
I wish you the best.
But that's where the maturity of we're gonna go through some dysfunction, and it's not about the dysfunction. It's about us sticking through it to get to the promised land. The promised land comes over and over and over again. It's not one landing.
That is, I'm not right. I'm not disagreeing.
When you flee and come back and you guys get to a resolve, that's the promised land. And then when it happens again, you're out the promised land. And then you're working to get back.
And that's called a relationship.
All a relationship is how do we get back to our square together and get us off of our own squares? How do we get back to this one square? That's it.
Well, ladies, you heard it. From another high-functioning woman to all the high-functioning women out there.
All of the functioning
Y'all in the
people.
good fight.
All of the functioning
people. Keep up the
people.
good fight of faith. Because that make-believe nigga is out there. This has been another session. I don't know where we ended because my toxicity level has.
I need to jump on you and pop you. Shut up.
We can do this for hours. I mean, these sessions have become very popular. As you can see, continue to comment, like, and subscribe. But we definitely have to have you back. You're amazing. Truly the highest class of civilization. Counsel Culture. We have fun on this one. We got Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, y'all.
See y'all.